ते बांधायचे.
True.
खरंच मनापासून धन्यवाद.
नाही नाही नाही, तसं काय नाही.
We'll just wait for another minute or so.
नो प्रॉब्लेम. तसा मी जरा गांधीवादी असल्यामुळे मला वेळेवर सुरू व्हायची फार म्हणजे हे असते, कळपळ असते माझी कायम. की आपलं लोकांना उगाच कशाला नाही तर बसून ठेवावं. आपण काय राजनीतिक नेते नाही आहोत. 3-3 तास 4-4 तास लोक बसून राहतात आणि का बसतात हेही मला कळत नाही अजून, पण असो.
Then I think probably it is 8:30 now.
Mhm.
So our
Oh.
guest is there. Everyone is there. So we should start actually.
Okay.
नो प्रॉब्लेम.
Yeah. So, Abhijit ji, are we doing a recording or
Yeah, I'm just,
live
yes.
streaming? Yep. So once that's ready, just let me know.
I just hope my background light is okay because I can move it a bit this way maybe, so it gets a bit whiter.
Rohanji, I suggest you can record on your computer, Rohanji, because you are a host. So I have just sent you a request.
Yes, I have I'll start with the recording.
So please record it on the computer, not on the iCloud. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, so let's make a start. All right. Namaste and good evening, everyone. My name is Richa, and on behalf of Setu, I would like to like to welcome you all to this very special Setu Talk seminar titled "A Conversation with Dr. Ajay Rane, a Global Crusader for Women's Health." Since this event is being hosted in Melbourne, as per our Australian customs, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional custodians of this land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Okay, I would now like to briefly introduce you to Setu. So Setu is Socio-Eternal Thinking for Unity. It is an initiative by a cohort of academicians, business leaders, and intellectuals of the Indian origin in Australia.
Wow.
Our aim is to, sorry?
I said, wow.
Thank you. Our aim is to create Setu, or a bridge, to facilitate direct contact and cooperation between the common people of the two great democracies.
Richa ji,
Setu-
sorry, Rohanji, the recording has stopped. Can you please start the recording once again?
Kaka, can you record? I am unable to do that.
Chalo, okay, fine.
It's on
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so our aim is to create a Setu, or bridge, to facilitate direct contact and cooperation between the common people of the two great democracies. Setu's two focus areas are Shiksha, meaning education, and Vyapar, meaning business or trade. Our intent is to enable sharing of knowledge and ideas and undertake projects in different sectors to benefit the world at large and shape the global discourse. Setu's three guiding principles are that the world is one family, truth is one, and eternal knowledge can transform the heart and mind. So that's about Setu. Now, with this introduction, let's get to the main event. Today's agenda will be mainly to listen to the enlightening words and the story of Dr. Rane, followed by a discussion and question and answer session with the audience. We request you all, please, all the audience, to keep themselves muted during the presentation, and also send your questions to us via Zoom chat. We also request anyone who is not named yourself correctly to please add your full name to your ID, and also preferably location, so that we have record of who has joined us from where. I would now first like to introduce you all to Dr. Smriti Murli Krishna. So Smriti ji here, she's with us today, and she's an adjunct senior research fellow at Monash University, University of Melbourne, as well as La Trobe University. She's also currently a senior scientist at Vivazome Therapeutics in Melbourne. She is an extraordinary personality who seamlessly amalgamates the world of advanced biomedical research with a deep-rooted passion for social causes and is an advocate for women and children's rights. Smriti ji also happens to know Dr. Rane personally, and hence we would like to invite her to introduce Dr. Rane and kick off today's presentation. Smriti ji, please take it.
Thank you, Richa-ji, and namaste to
Mhm.
all. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Dr. Rani to all of you. Pleasure and a privilege due to two reasons: one due to the professional reason, and one due to personal reason. So I can see that Professor Rani is still thinking where he has seen me.
No, I I haven't gotten that old, Smriti, yet.
Okay, thank you. So Smriti is still intact. So yes, we'll come to the personal side, But I would take this opportunity to introduce Professor Rane, an extraordinary person and a role model for everyone, including upcoming scientists like me. So I'll just briefly introduce Professor Rane's background. He was awarded the Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery from the University of Pune, and also a PhD from James Cook University, which also used to happen to be my alma mater. I worked there for 13 years. So he's currently a professor and head of obstetrics and gynecology at JCU, and he's also the director of urogynecology at the Townsville Hospital. Dr. Rane has been renowned for his humanitarian work in Syria, Iraq, and he has brought critical pelvic care to young girls and women in war-torn Middle Eastern countries and other third world countries, including India. He has received the Mahatma Gandhi Pravasi Award, Queensland Great Award, Australian of the Year, and Order of Australia Medal for his public service and philanthropic work in this field. And I'm sure this is not it doesn't end there. There's many more coming, and there's more to add to this list. He's a true champion of women's health and hopes to encourage more male doctors to fight for women's health rights. And coming to my personal privilege to introduce Professor Rane, I have to go back to 2009. That's the time when I migrated from Dubai to Townsville for my postdoc at JCU Department of Medicine, cardiovascular department with Professor John Gollich. And the first thing he mentioned was, "Oh, do you know Dr. Rane by any chance?" Because obviously whites think that all Indians are related. So that's the first time I heard about Professor Rane through my director, Professor John Gollich. And then a couple of weeks later, I was lost in Townsville. I didn't know anybody, no friends, new place. Coming from Dubai, it was a culture shock because Dubai, the night doesn't end. The day doesn't end till 1 o'clock. Townsville, the day ends by 4 o'clock. And then my close friend and mentor, Dushi Tangaya, Professor Rane would know her very well.
Yes.
Dushi said, "Oh, there's a movie happening in the casino. Do you want to come along?" I said, "Movie? Oh, it's a Hindi movie, but there is subtitles, do you want to come along?" I said, "All right," because I didn't have anything else to do in Townsville. And I went along, and guess what? It was a movie directed by Professor Rane, and it was about women's health. It was about, I think it was about uterine prolapse and hygiene issues, because
It's about female infanticide and feticide.
yes,
Yeah.
So that's the first time I met you in 2009. That was the premiere of that movie. So his CV doesn't just end as we have just mentioned. There's a lot happening in the background, which would take another half an hour to introduce. So I'm not going to go ahead with that. But then I have seen him in different roles throughout the past 13 years when I was in Townsville as a mentor to junior doctors as well as senior doctors, because many of my close friends have worked with him, including Dr. Rahul Dua, and many young or senior doctors have been trained under him. So so I can just go on and on about the list of people.
Don't.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is our kids went to the same school. So I've got twin daughters, and they were junior to Professor Rane's daughter. So I've sort of seen his kids grow up along with my kids. So there's a lot of memories, Professor Rane.
Right.
So it's such a big pleasure uh, to introduce your personal side to this group. Yeah, the humanitarian efforts and work that he has done just doesn't end in about women, but a lot about the Indian diaspora in Townsville, because Townsville evolved quite a lot from 2009 to now. It was a new migrant society, and Professor Rane had contributed quite a lot to the community, because I was part of the India Fest. I was a treasurer for the India Fest for quite a long time with Abhishek Joshi.
Yes.
And Richa Dua and me were the cultural committee members. So I have interacted, or we have sought his advice for quite a long time. So his commitment for the Indian diaspora is amazing. It just doesn't end with the health sector alone. It is also at the cultural. So there's so many things that I can talk about him, Richaji, but today we are here to listen to him. So I would hand over the stage to Professor Rane to listen to his extraordinary life and his journey in Australia. Thank you. Thank you.
Uh, so I'll start by my traditional custom to say namaste and Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So yes, the world is one family. And now I am going to say some bad words about Abhijit Bide, because he did not tell me that this was such a big occasion with so many people dialing in. I thought I was just going to have an informal chat with him in my Matru Bhasha, Marathi. But no, actually, my Pitru Bhasha, because my Matru Bhasha is Italian. But I love speaking my Pitru Bhasha a lot, but that's not going to happen. So it looks like it's going to be a combination of Minglish and Hinglish, which is also okay, I think, hopefully. So, Smriti, I was just telling my research fellow as my aeroplane was landing that there is a famous quote by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he, in his last movie, said, "I am old but not obsolete." And I am currently in that phase of of life where I think slowly people are thinking ये साला बुढ़ा हो गया अभी, but obsolete नहीं है अभी इतना. I have to remind them all the time that I may be old but I'm not obsolete. And she got it finally. She understood what I was trying to say. I have no idea what I want to share with you because you've shared everything. But I will start probably by saying there's nothing about me that is me. Aham. There is nothing about me that's me. I would rather share with you who made me me. And it really starts in a very small village near a place called Jalgaon in Maharashtra. My grandmother is the first person who made me me. And then I want to talk about my father and my mother who made me me. And then some other heroes in my life who made me me. So there's nothing worth talking about me unless you can talk about who made me me. And it starts by my grandmother, who was a laborer in a cotton picking farm. She was a sheti mazdur. She was a laborer in a farm, essentially, but a highly intellectual woman who decided that if after the third generation of farm laborers to break out of this cycle she decided to have a matka, an earthen pot, and every single laborer had to donate a copper coin. It was called a dabbu paisa. It was a copper coin with a hole in it in this matka. And when the matka was full, the village had to decide who was the cleverest boy or girl. Even then, I'm talking of the late 1800s, early 1900s. Who was the cleverest boy or girl? And then that person should be sent for secondary education. This is now an ABC program on conversations called Ajay Rane and the Pot of Gold. So if you want to hear about my grandmother in detail, it is on ABC Conversations. Long story short, the matka got full. The village decided one thing. My grandmother decided another thing. So my grandmother chose a girl from the village, and the village chose my father because he was the cleverest. But she had a conflict of interest. She could not choose her own son. Anyway, after a lot of persuasion, they took both these people. But my father made it to secondary high school. Unfortunately, the girl, she did go to school, but at that time, early child marriage still was a problem. And that stopped her in the track, which is very sad. I'm still in touch with this lady. She's in her 90s. So my father then did his 10th, 11th, 10th. Then they used 11th matriculation. I'm very mindful of the time, so don't worry, I won't go for more than another 10 minutes because you can ask questions after that.
Not at all, not at all. Please take the time. We would definitely like to listen to you. Such an amazing story. Please go. Yeah.
So my father was finished his matriculation, and an English army officer was hunting tigers near the Ajanta caves. I don't know if you've ever been to Ajanta caves. You should go. It's a beautiful, beautiful place near Jalgaon. And he heard this story about this earthen potware, this village, this kid who was trying to go into college. So he took up the story of my father, and lo and behold, on September 3rd, 1949, correct. On September 3rd, 1949, after independence, my father was on the front page of the Illustrated Weekly of India. Young boy from Jalgaon tries to break the cycle. So I always, as I will say to Abhijit, never start with any pressure in life. To get onto the cover of the Illustrated Weekly was a big thing at that time. So people actually followed his story, donated a lot of money. He ended up in Elphinstone College in Mumbai. He had never been on a train before. He had never been to a city before. So they actually followed the first 2 years of his college life in Elphinstone College through the Illustrated Weekly of India. And of course, then he used to like drama, Marathi drama. So he was a drama actor. So he was very good friends with Kashinath Ghanekar, Sriram Lagu, some very, very famous Marathi actors. And that's how he used to make money. He used to act at the night and study during the day. And so he became a doctor. And he wanted to become a surgeon. So he joined surgery. Now, of course, he's a young man. So there was a group of missionary nurses who were visiting Mumbai to do missionary work. They were white. And, this is what happens when there is a man and a woman and romance happens. So that's what happened with my father. But it was a problem because my mother obviously was of a complete different nature and custom and country. And my father was a backward class, poor man. So there was obviously a lot of opposition from both sides. And so essentially, my mother, who was the leader of our family in a way, she escaped Mumbai with my father, and they went to England. And that's where I was born. So I was born in England, brought up in England till the age of 8. But both my father and my mother were not happy because she was a missionary nurse. This man had been brought up by these poor farm laborers who had given their earnings to him to become what he is. So at the age of 8, my father left my mother and my brother and myself and decided to go to his village in India. And we understood that what his passion was. And so my mother, after 15 days, said, okay, we're going as well. So my brother, myself, and my mother, we also went to this very small village. There was no electricity. There was no toilets. There was no infrastructure. There was no schools because we were in the village. We were not in Bhusawal or Jalgaon. And for us, the biggest trauma is not having a toilet. So for 8 years of my life to have a toilet, a Western toilet, and then suddenly you are amongst the wild pigs in the farm. So it's a very traumatic experience, but it made us tough. It made us survivalists. And I actually don't know the hero, whether it's my father or my mother, but I think my father became a hero because of my mother. But she was the person who was never used to this. He was born into that. But then she helped him set up a hospital, and they gave free medical service for 32 years of their life, and they died there giving this service. So very, very great people. I am 1/1,000,000th of what they are. They are amazing people. You have to think about the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, living in poverty, but wealthy in heart and mind and in ability to give. So from my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, and my parents, we learned a long time ago that there is an amazing amount of joy in making money, but there is 100 times more joy in giving money. Or leave aside money for that matter, just taking versus giving. So the ratio has to be 100 to 1. We should give 100 times more than what we take. And that's what I have followed all my life. I've had a very, very, very adventurous life. Yes, I agree. I ran away from India because I did not want to have an arranged marriage. Not that I didn't want to have an Indian wife. I just did not want to have an arranged marriage. I had a mission in my mind. My mission was I wanted to be a triple specialist. It's a very difficult concept, but I think we are all adults here, so I can explain it. The injuries that women receive either during childbirth or during sexual trauma is to the urinary tract, the genital tract, and the bowel tract. So you have to be a bowel surgeon, a urologist, and a gynecologist. And one career takes 6 to 8 years. So 3 careers, you have to multiply by 3. So are you willing to give up 20 years of your life to get to a stage where you become a triple specialist so that you can fulfill your dream of what you set out to do? So that was my dream, because when I went to India and started doing medicine in India, I saw that the value of women's life was very cheap. It was almost as if that person is replaceable very easily. Especially in emergencies where we used to say, please, you have to give blood, otherwise this woman's going to die. And they used to say, oh, I mean, we are just farmers, we are just laborers, I think you can just let her die. Now, this is not uncommon even now. It's rare, but it still happens in India, still happens in Papua New Guinea, still happens in Fiji, still happens in Bangladesh. So the value of women's life, especially childbirth, during childbirth, or any trauma they sustain, is still very, very low. And so how fortunate are we to live in a country like Australia? In fact, sometimes I think has the pendulum swung too much, where we are probably 10% of the population has 90% of the noise, while 90% of the population just puts their head down and gets along with life. So maybe I see the disparity all the time, and I don't know, I don't want to comment any further on that, but we are very fortunate. The bottom line is we're extremely fortunate, and we keep forgetting that we are fortunate. We just become more entitled. And I have a great desire to constantly remind my own children that to have gratitude doesn't mean that you have to be subservient. To have gratitude is to acknowledge that I am blessed, and let me use these blessings that have been given to me. To be grateful is not a sign of weakness. You can't say I'm great, that because I'm saying I'm grateful, I'm being weak or subservient or soft. Entitlement is not something that one should expect. Entitlement is one that should be bestowed to you. That's the way I think about entitlement. So, yes, I ran away from home. I had no money again. This cycle of having no money was a great one, Abhijit, let me tell you, because I had no money in India. Then I ran away from home. I had no money in England, but I did have a British passport. So someone said to me, Ajay, well, why don't you just join the English British Army? Because they will give you a good salary. They will help you do all the training you need for your medical career. And, life will be okay. So that's what I did. I joined the British Navy, and they were indeed very good to me. I had to do a bit of military training, but they helped me learn surgery. They helped me learn urology. They helped me learn gynecology to become what I call a total pelvic surgeon. It's a very interesting. There are apparently 9 or 10 of us in the world, which is great news. And I'm hoping that in my career, I have produced another 3. One of the things with the Navy was after you finish 5 years of your education, you have to go into a zone of combat. And I was given the choice of Northern Ireland or Falkland Island. Falkland Island is near Argentina. Northern Ireland is very close to England. So I said, I'll just go across to Northern Ireland because it's close by. But at that time, it was extremely violent. I was involved in a number of bomb blasts. I have shrapnel injury. I had bullet injuries. It was a very violent time, and it was during one of those bomb blasts that I actually fell concussed next to another doctor, and they tell me this story because I think I was concussed. But when you are concussed, you see very clearly, Abhijit. That's what they tell me. So I looked at this person and I said hello, and I married her, and we had 2 children. That was the beginning of our romance via a bomb blast and a concussion. So that's the next person in my life who made me, because this person also came from a lower middle class Irish family. But she had this great desire or attitude to give. So her Bridavakya in Marathi, her principal statement was, you don't know you're giving until it hurts. If it doesn't hurt, you're not giving. In Marathi, it means म्हणजे आमची बोंब झाली. Anytime I wanted to buy a decent car, gone. Something I wanted to do personally, gone. Because it had to hurt. And we started our whole journey of hurting from 2003. When after the birth of both our children, first one 2000, second one 2001. So a couple of years we had to get used to understanding what these 2 living things are. They are our children. They are not going to go away from us. They are sucking all our resources. But we seriously started working hard on giving from 2003. So our first foray was building a fistula hospital in Chennai. And next door to the hospital, so we built this hospital, took us 4 or 5 years. We did a lot of training. Amma was the chief minister of Tamil Nadu. She actually showered us with a lot of praise, never gave us money, but this was Jayalalitha, Amma, and she said that this ward should be named after Paula Rane. So there is a Paula Rane fistula ward in this Kasturba Gandhi Hospital, even now, that my children, we go and visit, and we lovingly clean that stone on which her name is written, because that is our pilgrimage. Why? Because after 2013, we had trained so many doctors in the south of India that they did not need our services anymore. So we gave the building, we gave the infrastructure, we gave a pot of money so that the interest will cover the salaries, etc. So that was the story of the Paula Rane Fistula Ward, and that was our model. We wanted to go, train, upgrade, and leave, not just keep going. We wanted to leave because that's the true sign of success, is you leaving. And so just to give you an idea of this model works in Nepal. We are going to Kathmandu in 3 weeks. This model works in Bangladesh, in Dhaka. This model works in Tanzania, in Arusha, many, many countries. In fact, the best model we have now is actually in Fiji, where we train 39 specialists. And we are now exporting specialists from Fiji into the Pacific, from East Timor to Kiribati, to Cook Islands, to Solomon Islands, to Tonga, Samoa. And so women are going to benefit enormously from this, what we call the Pacific Dream Program. So that is the model. But the side story of it is in 2005, the the person who's the fistula was named after, which is Paula, came to me and said, there are 51 children that I need to bring to Australia. And I just said, I could not believe this woman, she's saying this. But the bottom line was, there was a very small orphanage next to this hospital that we had built. And they were all girls. And it was in a pretty bad state. So she wanted to take over this orphanage. And so that was our next Give Till It Hurts. This orphanage still exists. We have 51 girls that we take up to year 10. Then the state government takes over their education. We have an understanding with them, and it still continues. And it's a wonderful family to have. I have so many children, and it's wonderful to see them flourish. So it is during that journey that I started seeing the dark side of life. And the dark side of life is very dark. And I'm not going to share with you the great details, but the dark side of life is the oppression of women from womb to tomb. What I realized that women, whether you are in a developed country or a developing country, the degree only changes, but they are oppressed from womb to tomb. It is never ending. And the way we started this journey was the womb, where we saw that India alone was killing 60 million girls from 1984 to 2007. 60 million. China, same number, because nobody wanted girls. This is called female feticide, infanticide. If you're poor, you kill the baby after it is born. If you're middle class, you kill the baby around the mid-pregnancy by injecting some poisons, etc. If you are rich, you can have an ultrasound and then you can do an abortion. But 100 million girls were killed, 120 in fact, by India and China since 1984. This is a published document by United Nations. So we had to do something about that. And one of the things I did was I did make a Hindi picture, a Hindi movie called Rivayat that Smriti was talking about. And in fact, an amazing change. The movie was a commercial flop, but it brought about in India the PNDT-PD Act, whereby diagnosis of sex of the baby was banned by ultrasound scan. And of course, then the Beti Bachao program started. And you have to understand that it's not all doom and gloom. The Beti Bachao program, the PNDTD Act, all these things have reduced female infanticide and feticide in India alone by 70%. This is very good news. We are seeing women being educated, they're not being killed, and they're filling this hole. So if you can imagine, since 1984, 100 million girls being killed, there is a whole generation of young boys who don't have girls to marry. And so what we're seeing, or what we have seen in the last decade, or slightly earlier than that, is a lot of gang rapes. It is because there's a whole generation of boys with not enough girls. So when our Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited me to the health think tank, I said that the fast track courts that you have are no solace to the victim who has been raped. They are no comfort. What we need to understand is, why is this happening? And it's a very good news story that the womb killing of girls has stopped. China has stopped their one-child policy. So again, the killing of girls has stopped. It's a wonderful thing. The second thing is child marriages. Much less reduced due to legislation and understanding that education of women is very important. But the ugly face of this whole issue came to my notice when two of my girls from my orphanage were adopted by a Western group of parents. Everything legal, paperwork, everything legal. And when I went to visit them, there was no such address, and there were no such people. And the girls were actually trafficked as child prostitutes in Thailand. So child trafficking, child prostitution is one of the biggest scourges in women. So I'm just a humble surgeon. I'm just a humble doctor. But circumstances make you go to the next level. So we wanted to look at the scourge of child trafficking, how we can stop doing this, how we can improve the screening procedures that we have against child trafficking. Very common, unfortunately, in Cambodia, Laos, and countries like that as well now. Thailand has improved dramatically. So we're hoping that as these nations get more education and more funding, they will understand the value of women, but not just as a child prostitute, but as a working, helping citizen of their countries. So this womb to tomb continues. Bride burning was another big problem because I used to do a lot of plastic surgery on these survivors who had their genitals burnt sometimes, so it was, so there is, I have seen all this. And so I decided this is my journey in life. I'm going to dedicate my entire journey to looking after 4 pillars of female oppression. First is gender-based genital violence, where rape is used as a weapon of war. And this has been Congo, this has been Syria, this has been Afghanistan, this has been Ukraine. I have been to most of these places. Second was our female infanticide and feticide, which I've talked about. Third is female genital mutilation. Now, I know most of you are from India. I can see that, yes, all the names. Do you know that female genital mutilation is legal in India? That we are still fighting with the Supreme Court because the Bora Muslims say this is part of their culture, that they absolutely want to do it for their children. They don't do it because they hate their children. They do it because they love their children. I find such arguments futile. Anybody else's genital is not your property, even if it is your child. If that child wants to get herself or himself mutilated, let them choose at their age of 18. How can you say that your culture allows this between the ages of 5 and 9? I do not agree with it. So we are fighting it. And of course, the fourth pillar is what we call fistula, which is a terrible affliction that occurs if you have childbirth trauma and neglected childbirth trauma. Now, the good news is gender-based genital violence, especially in Congo, was due to this device. It is called a mobile phone. So everybody who has got a mobile phone, in this mobile phone will not work without a trace element called coltan, C-O-L-T-A-N. And there was only one mine in the world. at the Rwanda-Congo border that produced coltan. And 98,000 women have been raped since 1998. So that the people live in fear, and the men and the children work in the mines without complaining. So that there are now a couple more mines. We have done a lot of education. So that sort of gender-based violence work done by my colleague, Dr. Dennis Mukwege, who is one of my best friends, got him, and I'm going to say him, not us, him, the Nobel Peace Prize for 2018-2019. So he's the only gynecologist in the world to receive the Nobel Peace Prize for 2018-2019 to promote saving women from gender-based genital violence. But that Nobel Peace Prize gave us a big platform to talk to different people. For example, my charity is called Flourishing Women, and my two patrons are President Barack Obama and Dr. Dennis Mukwege. You don't need any other patron. We're now Jindabad. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful thing to do. But so through those platforms, we have reduced gender-based genital violence by about 60% globally in the last 15 years. So good story. Female infanticide, feticide reduced by 67, 70%. Good story. Female genital mutilation by educating migrants, especially, that it also happened in Australia, amongst especially the Ethiopian and Somalian migrants. That has been reduced by nearly 70 to 80%. Good story. The fistula program that we ran from 2012, training more than 300 doctors, especially in Africa, Bangladesh, Nepal, reduced the fistulas now to such a rate that WHO is saying there may be no fistulas by 2030. Great story. So my life is almost complete. The 4 pillars that we are working on are working well. It's a lot of hard work. So a lot of people ask me one question, and that is, why Townsville? I have no idea. I arrived in Townsville on Anzac Day in 1997 to help build a medical school in regional Australia, and I never left. But Townsville is just a Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It's just part of my family. I don't feel that I should be in Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane or London or New York or Los Angeles. It's just a place. But from there, I can do what I can do. I can build this massive setu between all of us. And here we are. We're building bridges because where you stay doesn't matter. Now, with technology and everything else, what matters most is, are you willing to give till it hurts? And that's where I think I will stop. Oh, I've got some questions here. That's interesting.
Yes, we've got some questions. I'd
Really
first
good.
like to thank you, Dr. Rane, for your family's story and your story, your humanitarian and giving attitude. It's so inspirational, so moving. I'd really like to extend heartful thanks to you for speaking to us about the status of the women and importance of women and their health. So yeah, during this conversation, we've got a few questions. So
Yes,
we
I'm
can.
going to address Milind Sate's question. Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Milind, for your question.
Uh-huh.
I completely agree with you. His question is, what are your thoughts about male circumcision?
Mhm.
And whether this is Jews or whether this is Muslims. Um, I just feel that why don't we leave the genitals alone? What is our obsession? Why not cut the nose?
Yeah, well, doctor, I completely agree with you.
Thanks, Miller.
But then the decision
Yes,
about what is to be done with the body is to be made by the person who is adult.
correct.
And so when the male child becomes adult, the male child can choose.
Correct.
They can have a choice.
Absolutely.
But what is happening here is the parents are making the decision,
Absolutely.
and then won't that constitute child abuse?
100%. So that is my point, is where are the rights of the child, Milind? That's what I want. We ask the same question. That under the umbrella of religion or culture in a modern society with science behind us, why are we doing this? Because a lot of people, so there was some theories that HIV was much less in sub-Saharan Africa, where circumcision, male circumcision is preponderant. But they didn't do it for that reason. So that was an incidental finding. So there's no scientific basis, unless, of course, you have different illnesses which male children can have, like balanitis, etc. There are conditions where you may require a circumcision. But ritual circumcision, I completely agree. It is a form of child abuse, if you want to really put it that way, because the children don't have a right. Now, having said that, in a particular community in Africa, they actually have a ritual for adult males who self-circumcise. And they have got when they turn 18, they are given a spear. The spear is called the assegai, Asegai. And they spend one whole year sharpening this spear because it's either going to kill them or it's going to make them safe. So it has to be very sharp. And yes, so I know that there are some other trends as well. But I just think it's just wrong. I think our obsession with male handling of genitals.
Okay, and just one more thing I would like to share personally with you, that I am also from Jalgaon district.
Wow, very good, sir. Very proud.
I was born in Jalgaon district. I was born in Jamner.
Jamner, अरे वाह.
Rateji, please switch on your video if you can.
Video
Yes,
It
lala
is
na
on. It
I
is
can
on,
see his
Dada.
hat.
video lala na. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
we
in
can see him.
space.
Yes.
You can see I'm in the space,
Yes.
but because of my hat, you are not able to see. You are not able to see how handsome I look.
Yes. Avinash Karpe, yeah, that's a
Mhm.
really great question. You mentioned you are one of the 10 or so in your specialization. So let me just make a little correction. If you go by just the specialization of what we call urogynecologists, then there are hundreds in the world. If you go by triple specialists, urologist, general surgeon, and gynecologist, you've got to be mad. That's me. Because for that, it's a very long process, number one. Number two, nowadays the specializations are so siloed that they don't let you become. तुम्हारे उधर रहो तुम यहाँ क्यों आ रहे हो, that sort of thing. So that is the other problem, is where we actually cannot make triple specialists, but we have got very dedicated young men and women who train with us, who are capable of handling all three systems at the same time. So the bottleneck is like this. Number one, takes a very, very long time. Then this is the problem. What are you going to eat? And then on top of that, if you get married and you have children, you have to feed them. So you have that responsibility. It's very important. Otherwise, don't get married. Stay single and dedicate your life. That's fine too. The second problem is the work that we do is not sexy. The work that we do is dirty. The work that we do is usually in places of conflict. And the work that we do does not pay. So it is again a slightly difficult issue where, to really have, we really need to have what I call the bubble in, bubble out model. So I live by that model. It might be, Prem, I'll be with you in 1 second. I see your hand. The bubble in, bubble out model is basically I live in a fantastic country. I make a decent amount of money working here in Australia. And then I spend 5 to 6 months out of the country. So I in my bubble, then I go out of my bubble. But even when I'm out of my bubble, even if I go to, say, Dhaka, or if I go to the slums of Triplicane in Chennai, I will try and find a really nice hotel to stay. Because I'll work for 12 hours in the slums, in the gutters and everything, but then I need a hot bath and a decent meal so I can keep going. Otherwise, I'm going to fall sick. So I'm not selfless. But this bubble in, bubble out approach also has appealed to our younger generation. So I'm taking a team of 8 to Nepal, and we are going to stay in Hotel Tibet International. I don't think it's really that good, but that's where we're going to stay. So we came out with these ideas of bubble in, bubble out, to teach the man to fish, capacity build and move away. Those were the sort of concepts that started getting us much, much better outcomes. Because initially, I will be very honest, it felt great to go as, Maharana Pratap on a horse, and and you just go, move everyone, I've come to save the world. And you feel good for a little bit, and then you suddenly realize that actually you're not the knight in white shining armor, that you are actually getting more out of this than what you're giving. And that's been the case in my life. As soon as I realized within the first 6 months that this is like my cocaine, doing this service is addictive because it makes me feel very good. So I do it now more for myself than for others. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. Anyway, Mr. Chetri, you want to?
Thank you very much for the wonderful talk. Quite
Okay.
inspirational. Ajay, I got 2 questions for you. I'll start with the quote from a great philosopher, Descartes. And he once said, I think, therefore I am. And your opening statement about your talk today, the whole concept of me, that the whole existence of what you are, I had difficulty understanding it. And I really want to know and explore really who you are as me. It simply cannot be defined by your heritage, the place you grew up, and it's more to do with the character, as Aristotle always say. A person is basically reflected in terms of combination of traits and the character. So that's number one. Second is to talk about going back to the management theories, the Maslow, the self-actualization. Once you got too much wealth, you try to attain things and try to go beyond the normal practices of what we do as a society. So I think we've gone to that state of self-actualizations and things that are beyond the physical needs and really helping out the rest of the world, especially the needy ones. So I'll stop there, and I really want to hear from you rather than talking too much. Thank you very much.
I don't know what to say, except a big thank you. That's number one. To be very honest, I mean, I haven't read Descartes nor Aristotle. I must say I grew up in St. Aloysius Convent School in Bhusawal. But look, I just think I have been very lucky and very fortunate to actually, and I grabbed the moment, if I can really be very honest. Didn't think twice, just grabbed the moment. It felt right. So I didn't really think too much in that sense. But I think yes, some people say, oh, you make your own luck. Okay, maybe they're right. But I just feel to some degree I was lucky. I definitely am very fortunate, and I grabbed the moments that came my way, and just took them and see where it led. Some backfired, some didn't. But overall, if you were to sum the life of 62 years that I've led, oh my God, it's been a full life. It's been amazing, and it just gets better now because the children have grown up. They're doing their own thing, their careers, etc., etc. They have become good humans. Great achievement sometimes now for us parents. It's so hard because my parents did what they did, so we didn't have to go through what they went through. We have done what we could do so that our kids didn't have to go through what we went through. But is that the right thing? I don't know. But fortunately, they're good humans. Oh my God, it is just a fantastic time to be in. Yes. Well, thank you for your very kind words.
I think the next one is what is the role of technology in women's health in your work? That's from Anupji.
Oh, that is amazing. I don't know because let me start by saying I'm a technophobe in a way. It took me 3 different laptops to try and get onto this WhatsApp Zoom meeting. Poor Abhijit is sending me different, but if anything that we learned from COVID, best lesson. We never stopped, even with COVID. We used Zoom and we used WhatsApp. So now we actually have a Pacific group, which is a group of 70 surgeons. They can call us 24/7 anytime, and they will have someone holding the phone because the best part about low resource countries is you have a lot of resource, human resource. So you give him the phone or her the phone, and they will hold it in front of the patient if they're having difficulty with surgery, etc. So we learned a lot from WhatsApp and Zoom, and we learned that face-to-face is very effective, but actually using computer technology like WhatsApp, Zoom, and now we are using, but it's not as high class, but we are using AI for robotic surgery. So I can sit here drinking my tea and actually operate on the patient, maybe in New York. Yes, that is possible now, but it's very high tech. It's not something that comes to work in my life. But now they are saying that they are going to miniaturize these surgical robots so they can be taken into the field of war or frontline. So I don't have to go there and be put on a hit list by assassins or sustain injuries because I'm no longer active duty. But I can operate from here or guide people as they're operating. So yes, technology I think is going to be very fascinating in the next 10 years, without
Great.
any doubt.
Yeah. Another good question from Aditi ji. What approach should we take to teach your young kids, including boys and girls, about sexual abuse and make them aware of the dangers associated?
I'm not an expert on sexual abuse in that sense, but let me just tell you the issue, Aditi, that we have seen in Australia. In Australia, we're seeing more of the issue of consent. What does yes mean? What does no mean? And one of our third-year medical students has developed an app, and he is for school children to understand the definition of sexual consent. Now, sexual consent is not just having organ intercourse. It's about the language. It's about the touching, the feeling. It's about making wrong gestures. So there is a whole concept of sexual abuse, into inverted commas. And children get very confused because our normal baseline humanity, and I'm really sorry to say this, but it is the truth, is hormonally driven. And the tempering of our behavior is through social normalization. So, for example, you look at the Catholic religion. I have a Catholic mother. I had a Catholic wife, a Hindu father. And it is very interesting that when you have male priests who are males, and for them to stay celibate all their life, it's not easy, because we are countering it by a human behavior by social norm. So, sorry, coming back to your question, I think open dialogue is very important, because one of the things that we never had when we were in India, we definitely saw this, was there was never any open dialogue about sexuality. Nobody used to say anything. And, only just looking down, looking up, and then that's it. That's how the messages were sent here, there, and everywhere. But also, what was not said sometimes, if there was a distant uncle who's touching, being a bit naughty, there was no outlet for children to say that something was going on. And I think this is where we have to be very open with our children. And if I can tell you, the most open society that I have seen about sex education is the Dutch, Holland. And it is open in a clean way, not in a dirty way. It's open in a clean way. So I really certainly think that as your children grow into especially now, and I don't know how long we have, probably time is getting up, but when I came to Australia in 1996, the average age for a young girl to have periods in Australia was 12. Now it is 9.8. What does that tell you? I can tell you very scarily, that tells you that this 9.8-year-old lady is now capable of having babies. That's what it tells me physiologically, right? So we have to stop treating our children like babies, because they are actually growing up faster than you think. And so we have to move on with the times. The problem is with the parents. We want our babies to remain babies. My little babu, my little bacha. Well, I'm sorry, your bacha is now capable of having a bacha. And unless we explain to them what's going on, and protect them, give them the right information about consent. Yes, what is no, and give them the abilities. There's no point in giving 16-year-old girls contraception. They will teach you about it because their maturation has taken place at 10, 11, 12. We are going at 16, it's too late. We have to grow up. So yes, I love your question because this is an attitude change that parents need to have. We need to understand that our children are maturing faster, not just because of social media and TV and but also structurally, physiologically. That's what's happening. So it's a very important message. So thank you for that question. That's a really important part of what we talk about in women's health.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Aditi. So we've got a few questions
Oh,
there.
really?
So,
Okay.
so
Well,
how
let's do
how
them.
many more would you like to answer today, or shall we take one more and then wrap up?
Let us do three.
Three more?
Yes,
All
one.
right.
Okay,
So,
let's do I would like to hear a bit about building toilets in villages, please. That's so kind, Mrinal. Yes, you have touched the topic of my heart. And it's only because it was, okay. So this was my PhD. Okay. And that was stop following the West. So we reversed engineered everything. We looked at the Asian squatting position and we realized that squatting is better than sitting. Probably too late for all of you sitting in this audience. But believe me, that is the truth. We also learned, I think I'm digressing a little bit, but I have to tell you why. That we also have just written a scientific paper that washing is better than wiping. And you're saying, why are we going to these basic questions? Because this is where the whole problems are starting with constipation, diverticulitis, children getting abdominal pain, women getting recurrent bladder infections because they're not washing, they're wiping. Wiping never makes it clean. So I think we want to set a little trend on bucking the current trend of accepting westernization blindly. Let us see what we were doing and what was wrong with what we were doing. We were right in what we were doing. So the reason for building the toilets in the village, especially this was in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, was women, now it's changed a fair bit, but maybe 15 years ago, women would wait just before sunrise or go just after sunset because no privacy. So they would go in the farms, in the fields, to do open defecation or urination. The problem was they were victims of rape. They were killed. There are 14 registered cases this year itself, it's only March, of women being killed, young girls being killed because they went toileting in the farms. So the idea was to build toilets in the village for women and girls only, so that they did not have to go out in the farm. The men can go anywhere. Who cares? I don't care. But so we started this program called Dignity Sanitation. And we had great support from GM Rao, who is, if you go to Hyderabad Airport, he owns Hyderabad Airport. And so we built 250,000 toilets for women and young girls only. But of course, as soon as Prime Minister Modi came with the Swachh Bharat project, public toilets are built everywhere now. So it was so much important for women and wonderful, wonderful thing to happen. Give their life back, their dignity back. They don't have to hold on till sunrise or sunset. What nonsense, come on. We're in 2024, So it's a very good thing that's happened. Kanchan Joshi said,
Richa,
thank you.
Yeah.
Do I have time for a really brief comment?
Okay. So yeah, Dr. Rane, we'll just keep
Yeah.
it really brief then.
Yeah.
I'm not
Talk.
I don't
speaking.
have a
I'm done.
question. I'm just going to appreciate the 3 strong women in your life. And the question you got asked, what is you as compared to the other parts of you? And I can give you a chemistry suggestion. You are the best alloy of all of them.
Thank you.
Your own characteristic.
Nice. Thank you, Mrinalji. So yeah, Kanchan is saying thanks to you and she's praising, of course. It's really nice. Thank you, Kanchan. And Mahesh wants to ask, do you see any difference in the approach by patients in Australia as compared to India?
Not so much India, Abhesh. I must say, India has really improved dramatically in its delivery of health services, except, of course, in the very poor public sector of health.
Mhm.
I do feel that health, I'm sorry, I'm going to use this word, health pseudo-literacy appears to be much higher in Australia than in India. And I call it pseudo-literacy for a reason. They're actually not very health literate, but they are made to feel that they're health literate. And unfortunately, in Australia, I do feel sadly that there is still a blame culture, that it is everybody else's fault that they are sick. It is everybody else's fault that they are 156 kilos. That McDonald's should have never served me this food. That Ozempic should be available to everybody. That, cigarette smoking, the cigarette company is at fault. So we have this blame culture, and we are being made to even accept it more and more that, no, it's not your fault. It's blamed. So I think that owning one's health, bad or good, is an ownership of that person, in my opinion. And I think that certainly in India, I see that there is a more fatalistic approach. Yes, this happens, you tried your best, or it was my fault. Maybe I drank too much, maybe I smoked too much, maybe I didn't. So there is a little bit of acceptance of one's own. It's not a blame culture. So I'm not saying all Australian patients are like that, and I'm not saying all Indian patients are like that, but in proportion, I would say that pseudo-health literacy is higher in Australia compared to India.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, Shilpa ji has asked, what is the risk of robotic surgery as compared to human intervention?
Oh, okay, Shilpa Saregaonkar. Let me give you the most simple answer. The robot is 100% like me, a slave. So the robot has no brain. Currently, robotic surgery that we do is 100% master-slave relationship. I am the master, the robot is the slave. Just like I am the slave and the wife is the master. It's a very simple, 100% relationship. There is, at this moment in time, thank God, there is no worry from the robot thinking, doing anything. The robot will only do what we will. It's 100% master-slave relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I don't know.
Great. Just one last question from Nitinji. So he's asking, what is Dr. Rane's opinion on antibiotic abuse, primarily stemming from a lack of knowledge regarding antimicrobial drug resistance? Furthermore, furthermore, what are his views on utilization of antibiotics in pelvic health issues, both for men and women?
Wow, that's
A long question.
that's an amazing question.
Yes, good.
Look, let me tell you a short answer.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to really see antibiotic abuse, go to India. you don't even need a prescription, and you can go and get the strongest of the strong antibiotic on the bloody planet. And and why are you taking it? That's the most important question. Why are you taking? Oh, I thought I had a little bit of cough, so I'm taking gentamicin. What the hell? So, yes, it's a real problem. And I don't know, once we start getting the superbug issue at around 30%, then we are in trouble, because then nothing is going to cure us. But I think we really, so it's called ABS, antibiotic stewardship in Australia. It's very strong and it's good. It's good. But when I go to Bangladesh or India, or you look at them carrying the strips, kya dawai lete hai, batao? So they show you and you go, what the hell, man? Why are you taking this? Doctor said you take it. But, yes, it is. And because it's cheap, generic antibiotics are so cheap now, then nobody is talking of simple penicillin or ampicillin or Keflex, or everybody wants to go straight into third generation. And I think there is a definite danger. So I think, well, thank you for the question. I know I didn't answer it fully, but I'm just giving you the experience of third in different countries where you see this whole different attitude. I think antibiotic stewardship is a good thing. It makes us think before we actually prescribe. But sometimes I think even in Australia, it's a bit too tight. But then hang on, you can't just say tight bhi nahi chahiye, loose bhi nahi chahiye. I think tight is better. Tight is better. I think tight is better. Thanks.
All right, great. So we are running a short poll for just to know where our audiences are logged in from. So while that's going on the other side, please everyone respond to the poll. So Dr. Rane, thank you so much. I would really like to sincerely thank you for your graciously sharing the inspirational story and for the engaging exchange that we have just now. And often it's relegated to the bottom of the list for women, and we don't really look after our health that much, and nobody else cares either. So we do realize that the women of the family, her health is really important for a happy household, a happy family, and a prosperous nation. So, Dr. Rane, thank you so much for your insights and your experience and your passion for women's well-being. It's really, truly enlightening.
Thank you.
Um,
Richard,
so
can I just finish by
yes, please.
a statement that I'm glad you made this statement.
Uh-huh.
So, just three sentences. Number one, woman is a life giver. She gives life. I cannot. Woman is a life sustainer. So the fact is that if a woman dies in childbirth in under-resourced countries, 50% of her children will be dead within 5 years. 50% of her children will be dead within 5 years. If a man dies, nothing happens.
Yep.
Third important thing, women can multitask. Okay? So,
yep.
Life giver, life sustainer, multitasker. The only thing we have forgotten is we don't celebrate these three very important roles that women play for the genesis of this entire planet. What we are interested in is, are you a CEO of a big company? Do you fly a jet? Even a stupid man can do that. Can he give life? No. Can he sustain life? No. Can he multitask? No. True feminism is celebrating life-giving, life-sustaining, and multitasking. Thank
Excellent. Thank you. I think Abhijit ji would also like to say a few words now.
काय बोलू मी अजय
काय तुम्हाला आता द्या शिव्या.
तुम्ही सिक्सर मारलाय. So amazing, Ajay. After seeing you nearly 8 years, I still remember in 2016
Yes.
you coming along with your dad who was on a wheelchair, and I mean so humble that time, and you still maintain that. Just so inspiring. It's so inspiring. And your life journey never ever was so much. I was aware of that. I mean, you had a very brief time during 2016 sharing
True.
your experience and your knowledge during All Australia Sammelan. But today it was a real good session where we came to know so many things, so many things. And I think probably we haven't touched on one of your most innovative. I mean, you do so many things. आता काय सांगू मी आणखीन? And there is one thing that you shared with me. I would really love you speak 2 minutes on that, which is because that is something the STEM stars.
Yes.
Just take 2 minutes तुम्ही जर सांगू शकलात, that would be really good because this is a Aussie STEM star and what is all about. Current,
So, Australian STEM Star is, well, STEM is science, technology, education, mathematics, if
Yeah.
I'm mistaken. And it's wonderful that there is an initiative by the Australian government to actually write books on people who they think can inspire age groups between 9 and 13. So when they came to me and said, we want you to be an Aussie STEM star and write a book on me, it is available on iBooks. I said the same thing that I told Richa. Please make a book on how I became me, not about me. So this book actually is the rest of what we discussed today. It is about how I became me, not who am I. And I think Mr. Chetri has really got into my mind. He's an amazingly intelligent man. I have to go and think about what he said, because that's a wonderful way to start thinking about oneself. So yes, I mean, if you want to buy it, it's, I think, $5, but very proud moment for me to be able to tell every single Australian student, school student, about my grandmother, about my father, my mother, and my life partner who made me possible. Thank you, Abhijit.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So definitely there will be, I think I can clearly see that there will be, we can probably have a couple of more sessions, especially focus on the areas that you work in different parts of the world. I
Sure.
mean, it's only 1.5 hours and we had to listen, get to know so much. But thank you so much once again, Dr. Ajay.
Thank you.
Great.
We'd be delighted to come to Melbourne if you any other session. And thank you so much for staying late. And you are 1 hour late. For me, I'm only 9 o'clock. You guys are 10 o'clock. So I appreciate it, your time, your love, and just namaste. And God bless everybody. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
so
Dr.
much.
Rane. So yeah, before we wrap up, I should also thank all our audience. They stayed up this late and on a
Amazing.
Friday
Amazing.
evening.
I
Yeah.
look at this number of people. Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, Friday evening especially, the people would want to have their own time. But yeah, of course, Dr. Rane, your profile is just so astonishing. Everybody wants to listen to you. Just wanted to let you know about the next Setu talk as well. It's scheduled for Sunday, 21st of April, and you'll really be excited to know it's with the internationally renowned sociologist Dr. Salvatore Bebunis. So this event flyer will be sent to everyone soon. So please register and don't miss this exciting event. He usually has very interesting things to talk about for India. And next, I would also like to appreciate the efforts from Dr. Abhijit ji, from Dr. Mahesh Poddar, Dr. Smriti Murli Krishna, and all other Setu members as well. And finally, we all at Setu would look forward to your continued support and participation in our future Setu events. And please visit our website, or you can also be connected page. So yeah, that's all. Good night and namaste from me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rane.
Thank you, Dr. Rane. Hope to see you again sometime, maybe
Yes,
in
indeed.
person.
Indeed. No problem. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good
Bye,
night.
everyone. Good night.
Bye.